that's the best I can do. That's already a killer bargain. You know it's worth twice that. Well, that's my final offer. Take it or leave it. Fine. I'll see you later today when you come to your senses and change your mind. Cheapskate. He's trying to swindle me. Oh, excuse you. Please do not touch the hand of glory unless you are willing to be beholden to the hand of glory for the rest of your living days. Are you prepared for that? I didn't think so. So please don't touch. Do you make a habit of going into people's shops and touching strange-looking items that you don't fully understand? Didn't you see the sign next to it that says, Hand of Glory, do not touch? Oh. Wait a second. This, I don't think I've seen you around here before. Not just in my shop, but anywhere in Menzoberranzan. It's a little unusual to see a new face. I mean, it's a big city, it's not impossible, but, someone who is clearly using illusion magic. That is a little more unusual, especially such a shoddy, detectable spell. Are you in disguise or something? Goodness, goodness. Well, that explains why you tried to pick this up. You probably can't read Undercommon, can you? Interesting. So why exactly is someone who clearly doesn't belong in Menzoberranzan here in my humble little shop? Runa. Oh, that's right. She said that she was sending someone to deliver a very, very powerful item. She trusted you with it. She did say there was something unusual about you that she saw in her weird little prophecy webs or whatever, but... Well, just because you're no good at illusion magic doesn't mean that you're not still an interesting delivery person, I suppose. Let me put this down very gently, so as to not disturb anyone or anything. Now, this item that you have for me from Runa, may I see it, please? Payment? She didn't pay you to bring it to me? She said I would make it worth your while? Of course she did. I know that she's not exactly mortal in the most rudimentary sense, but there are still some things that she should know by now that she shouldn't do. She said I would pay you for delivering it, that I would make it worth your while. Great. All right, well, I suppose that'll be between me and Runa later. All right, what do you want? Do you want gold? Do you want items or whatever? I got some interesting stuff here that you might like. I could let you browse around a little bit and see if there's anything that... Information. Now that could be interesting. The right information is certainly worth much more than gold, depending on what that information is and to whom it concerns. Who are you exactly? And what exactly is this information that you're so desperate to have? A kidnapping? My. Well, that surely sounds very intriguing and very, valuable information. Who exactly was kidnapped? Oh, or perhaps you're trying to kidnap somebody, in which case I probably shouldn't be helping you out. Oh, someone was kidnapped and brought here. Really intriguing. Who exactly was this kidnapped party? If you don't mind me asking. A princess from the surface world. Bastard actually did it. He's been talking about it for forever, and you've actually found. Huh? Well, I must admit, I may not know specifics per se, but if one keeps one's ear to the ground, there's quite a lot of information that can be gleaned through people who drink a bit too much Drow wine at the taverns. You see, many of us here in Menzoberranzan are used to keeping things a little closer to the vest. However, there are those who can be so persuaded to loosen their lips with the right motivation. This person in particular, he's very good at running his mouth, but I never thought he'd actually do it. He comes up with these crazy plans all the time and hardly ever actually sees them through. Interesting. So you'd like to know some information about this poor, innocent, kidnapped princess, Well, I do hate to be the one to have to tell you this, but the person that I know of, he's not actually the mastermind in this whole little scheme. Who the actual mastermind is might surprise you a little bit. So why are you here, looking for this poor, fated princess? Are you some kind of a knight hired to save her? Perhaps you were her bodyguard, made to protect her, and you failed. Maybe there's something a little more between the two of you. No. I'm sure. Your desire is perfectly noble. Well, I could be persuaded, I suppose, to let slip what I know. But that does seem like some very valuable information, honestly. Let me make sure that what you're carrying for me is worth this information first, shall I? Good. Now that is a pretty thing, isn't it? A Feywild shard, straight from the hands of a Fey. Half Fey, whatever. Runa has her quirks, I suppose you could say, but when she delivers, she delivers. Of course, she was supposed to deliver this quite a while ago. I've been waiting for her to come down here and bring it to me. She kept making excuses about the webs being confusing, but punctuality is not something that the Fae really care about. Time works differently for them. They don't understand how it binds us mere mortals to our fate. Oh well, that's not your fault, I suppose. I'm sure you scurried your way right down here, right? Except to pay far too much for a shoddy illusion spell. Perfect. One step closer. Never you mind what I needed for. That was not part of the information that you asked for. All right. I suppose I could send you in the direction of the person who orchestrated this kidnapping. Well, not orchestrated, but the one who carried it out. As far as the inner machinations of this As far as I'm aware, now, this could all be, not necessarily true. It is all hearsay, of course, but you may need to look a little closer to home if you want to actually find the mastermind. But I could point you in the direction of the person who may be holding your sweet, innocent little princess. Are you sure you're up for the task, though? This is a very powerful drow, and you do happen to be in the city of Menzoberranzan. This is our domain, darling, not the domain of silly little mortals like you from the surface world. What makes you think that you're going to be able to sneak into a highly guarded drow fortress down here and save your beloved princess and actually escape unscathed? Well, I'm glad you have a party of adventurers with you and it's not just you, although that does make it a little more difficult to actually get away, doesn't it? What kind of magical items have you got that are good for stealth, espionage, any of those kinds of things? That's not going to be nearly enough, my dear. Here, let me show you some things that might be of interest to you, alright? Just a minute. Coming all the way down here to the Underdark. Don't even have a plan. Good. Nice and fresh. Here. Let's see what you think of this. Do you know what this is, by chance? Yes, it does look very common, doesn't it? Just sort of resembles sand, or maybe salt. You see, sometimes you want interesting magical items to look flashy and cool, and sometimes you want them to be entirely inconspicuous. This is one of the latter, because this is a little vial of dust of disappearance. Have you ever heard of it before? It's very useful. You see, if you take this powder and sprinkle it on yourself and people, creatures, your party, anyone around you within a few feet of you, you will all temporarily become invisible to the naked eye for a few minutes, usually 2 to roughly 7 or 8 or something like that if you're lucky. It doesn't last for very long, but it is very, very powerful. And of course very useful for sneaking in somewhere or sneaking past guards. Now, I do have to warn you, just because you cannot be seen does not mean that you cannot be heard. Many, many people who are not well-versed in the art of stealth tend to use an item like this very poorly, I suppose, thinking that they can just rely on being invisible to, well, be as stealthy as they would like. You can still be heard. And of course, if you were to take any sort of damage or cast a spell or attack another creature, then the invisibility wears off. But it is good for a few minutes of espionage. Could be a very useful item for you and your party. Yes, it's not very long. Of course, even 5 minutes can seem like an eternity. In a certain heist, you can accomplish a lot in 5 minutes. But if you're looking for something that's a little more long-term, I do have something very, very special. Again, this item might not look all that impressive. It's just a simple ring, you can see. see there with some bands and some designs on it. But this is a ring of invisibility. You slip this on your finger and you will be invisible until you take it off. So it can last for a very long time. As long as you don't cast any spells or take damage or attack anyone, things like that, then it would render it not useful anymore. But it can last a very long time. Of course, this is an item that only works for one person, whereas the dust would work for your whole party. That's why I suggested it first. But if you're looking for something a little more long-term, something like this could work very nicely. Allow me to demonstrate. There, see? Now, as you can tell, you can still hear me, right? Don't forget that part, dearest. Interesting, right? I thought you might like that one. Now, do you have the ability to see in the dark, or will you be needing a pair of goggles of night? Ah, good. All right, well, at least you got that taken care of. I was going to say, if you've made it this far into Menzoberranzan without night vision, that would be interesting, to say the least. I mean, it can be done, but it's a little bit annoying. Now, do you have anyone on your party who's good at things like lock picking, getting into different safes, different chests, anything like that, or detecting traps? Maybe then you could benefit from this. Have you seen something like this before? Yes, I admit it doesn't look particularly impressive. This is another one of those items that, though it may look mundane, is actually very, very impressive. See, this is a hollow tube that's got a little striker attached to it here. Now, if you use this little striker to strike the tube, it could be very, very helpful for you. See, this is called a chime of opening. Striking this tube will cause any lock, whether it be a door, a box, a chest, a pair of manacles, a padlock, anything like that that has been locked, it will cause it to open, become unlocked, unstuck. Even if it is locked in a magical sort of way, this will help to unlock it for about 10 minutes or so, and it will render that spell useless during that time. So, this could be very, very useful, especially if you actually get to your princess and she's chained to a wall or something like that. Now, do be warned, when you strike this chime, it does let out a rather loud, resonant chime. So, other people will be able to hear it if they're close enough. But it could still be very, very useful, especially if you use this with the invisibility. You know, that could be a good pairing. I suppose it depends on what you're looking for. But this could be another very, very useful thing for you. Otherwise, maybe you're looking for a bit more power in your party, or at least the illusion of power. This is called a deck of illusions. Very useful, especially if you're good at bluffing. You see, each one of these cards has a picture on it of some kind of a beast or a fighter. Maybe a frost giant or a hill giant, maybe a goblin warrior, maybe an assassin, maybe an enchantress, maybe an archmage, maybe a lich, maybe a full-grown red dragon. Now, to use these cards, You do have to pick one at random, and you toss it on the ground, and then an image of whatever is on that card will appear in that spot, and they will look and sound and act exactly like whatever that creature would look and sound and act like. Of course, if anyone were to walk through it or perhaps use magic to examine it or something like that, they would be able to tell that it was an illusion. The creature will not actually cause any sort of damage or anything like that. But these cards can be very useful should you need to get away and you're being chased. I think almost any group of guards, whether they be Drow or otherwise, would perhaps take pause if the hallway was suddenly filled with a terrifying lich or a large, scary hobgoblin or something of the sort. It would at least give you a bit of time to get away before they realize your deception, don't you think? Anyway, this can be a very, very useful tool. Even if you later on in your adventuring, in your travels, perhaps you need to make a negotiation with someone, and you'd like to bring with you the air of power. You'd like to seem like you and your party are a bit stronger than you actually are. How nice to have something like this lurking behind you, as if guarding you from any sort of misfortune or deception. It's quite an interesting item here. What do you think? Does my deck of illusions interest you? Good, good. I'm glad that you see the value in that. It is, after all, a very, very useful item. Of course, there is the downfall of not being able to choose what it is that you want, but all of them are rather fierce in their own right, so I suppose it depends on what your opponents might be most afraid of. A night hag, an oni, a hobgoblin warrior. There's all kinds of beasties in this deck. Could be very useful. Now, how are you on weapons? I happen to have quite a few very powerful blades, and very easy to conceal blades. Nothing wrong with having a few extra daggers in your arsenal. You never know. I have a beautiful bone dagger, actually. Just got this one recently, actually. A beautiful piece, as you can see. Now, this one is not enchanted. It's simply a dagger, but could easily be enchanted to fit your needs. Either way, it is just a lovely, lovely dagger. Very rugged and fierce in its appearance. Sometimes just the presence of a weapon is enough to stave off any sort of attack. Someone willing to wield a weapon like this, and as long as you look the part of someone who can handle it, that could strike fear into people enough, at least just to know, you know what, I don't think I want to mess with them. You never know. Or if you'd like, I do have one that is enchanted that you might be interested in. Here we are. This one. It's also a bit rugged in its appearance, but this one is actually enchanted. You see, once per day, you can press this gem, and it will magically coat the dagger in poison. This is a dagger of venom. And you can use that poison for up to about a minute or until you hit something with it, and then the poison will transfer to them, and whatever damage you do from the actual dagger attack will be increased by the damage of the poison, of course. You can only use it like that once per day, but once would be enough, especially in the midst of a daring rescue, if maybe you need a particular guard to not follow you anymore. Could be very, very useful. Do you have anything like this? Not interested. That's alright, that's alright. You did seem very intrigued, though, by my deck of illusions. Is that something that interests you? You know the information first. I can see that, I can see that. Of course, I've already given you some, you know. You may need to look a little closer to home if you want to know why this kidnapping actually happened. I suppose I could give you the name, the location, where your princess might be. Like I said, it's all hearsay, but I've been around this city for long enough to have a pretty decent idea of who might be capable and willing to do something like that. A girl knows her secrets. Alright, let me put these aside for now. There we are. Now, before I tell you who it is, how much do you know about Menzoberranzan and Drow society? Well, suffice it to say, it's rather complex. You see, like your society is up on the surface world, we have the aristocrats and we have the commoners. There's also quite a lot of backstabbing, I suppose you could say. And front stabbing. Just lots of stabbing, I suppose. That's why, Dagger of Venom, it's one of my best sellers. But there's lots of scheming, I suppose. You see, some people in power enjoy their power. Some people in power spend all of their time simply trying to protect their power, being convinced that there are people who are trying to take their power, and so they never even really get to enjoy it. It's rather unfortunate, really. You see, it's not uncommon for a father to be killed by one of his own children so that they can take over the family house and all of his assets and things like that. It's also not uncommon for different siblings, particularly younger siblings, to try to usurp their older siblings. All kinds of games when it comes to power down here. The whole thing is rather complicated. I wouldn't bore your simple little mind with it, but suffice it to say, the person that I believe you might be looking for, he happens to be the seventh son of a particularly powerful aristocratic house. Now, of course, he is part of the house, but being the seventh son doesn't allot him all that much status. And you see, he's tried a few times, actually, to do away with some of his older brothers. And unfortunately, he's never been successful. He's not a very good assassin, unfortunately. But apparently he is good at kidnapping. His name is Kalrin. That's who you're looking for. Of the House Goodit. They have quite an impressive manor. A series of manors, really. I can show you on the map where they are. Of course, that's only going to be part of the trouble, is actually finding their manor. As far as actually getting in there, infiltrating it, finding your princess, that's going to take some doing. That's going to take some espionage, quite a bit of planning, and maybe some magical stealthy items as well. How about a cloak of elven kind? Or maybe slippers of spider walking? Anything like that sound interesting to you? Alright, I suppose. It would make sense for you and your party to find this place and scope it out a little bit first to see what you might need. Unfortunately, what you might need is an army. No. I'm sure that you and your party are very, very clever. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You did, at least, make it all the way here after Bruna sent you, so I suppose that is something. When do you think you're going to be getting back to the surface? Do you think you're going to need to go back to the surface before you try to save your princess? For supplies, reinforcements, anything like that? I'm not sure. Well, you see, I have a delivery that I need to make as well to another contact up on the surface. However, I seem to be a little tied up myself in some projects that I have going on here that need tweaking. Never you mind what they are. They're, very important. Hopefully very lucrative, but at the very least, they're going to be interesting. Anyway, I am possibly not going to be able to make our drop-off to get my contact what she needed. Seeing as you're such a good delivery person to have brought me my Feywild shard, would you be a dear and perhaps bring a package back up to the surface for me? I can tell you exactly where to find the person. It will be incredibly easy. In fact, I will even pay you for your trouble and not make her pay for it, like what Runa showed. You would consider it, all right. Consider it for, perhaps, one of these fascinating items that I just showed you. That could be interesting. That could be very interesting. It would certainly save me a trip, and then I could actually get this item to my friend when I said that I needed to. Alright. Now, of course, if you don't deliver it, then you and I are going to have quite a problem. So, if Ash gets back to me that she has not received the item in a timely manner, then I'm going to have to hunt you down, and you don't want to do that, especially if it spoils all of my little projects that I have going on here. But I suppose Runa trusted you. She wouldn't have trusted you if she hadn't seen something decent about you in that weird web thing that she does. Alright. Well, which of these fascinating items do you think would be the most useful? I mean, honestly, any of them could be useful. The ability to turn your party invisible for a little while. Or perhaps the ability to turn yourself invisible for much longer. The Deck of Illusions. This is a very, very rare and unique item. I mean, I could perhaps give you a discount on the price of it if you were willing to toss a little bit of gold my way. Girls gotta eat, you know. I do need this item delivered, but that's quite a steep price. You understand? Good. I think that we can come to some kind of agreement then. Let me show you the item. Well, let me show you the bag that the item is in. I don't think that you need to be worrying yourself about the item itself, but it's just this little package. It's actually rather lightweight. It's actually magically enchanted as well, so that no one will be able to open it except Ash. So no peeking. You won't be able to anyway. But it shouldn't take up much room in your bag. It can be smushed down a little bit if you need it to be. And like I said, it is very Just a rather important item for my friend. What do you say? You want to deliver this to me, and I'll give you a killer deal on the deck of illusions. I'm really doing you a favor here, you know. I'm going to lose quite a lot on this, but I do need this delivered. This will be certainly worth the investment, I think. It's a bit, complex what this is used for, but yeah, I think it'll be worth it. What do you say? Wonderful, wonderful. An absolute pleasure doing business with you. Of course, if Runa trusts you, then you can't be all that useless, I suppose. Just not good at disguises. Oh, come on. This is a very powerful item. I think you can spare a little more than that. Ah. Now we're talking. You're still getting an incredible bargain, just so you know. Those decks are not easy to come by. If you happen to just find one while you're adventuring, it's probably going to be missing some of the cards, and you'll never know. But I think that was a fair price, for you at least. Practically robbing me blind, but oh well. Just make sure that you deliver that package to Ash. Good, good, good. Let me write down where she is. Just so that I know you won't forget it. There we are. Now, what kingdom did you say you were from again? Right, that's where the princess was taken. Okay. How familiar are you with that kingdom? With the forest? Okay. Shouldn't be too hard for you to find this, then. Good, good, good. There. That should be all that you need to find her. There you are. Keep that safe, all right? Make sure that no one else gets that little piece of paper. Well, I do wish you haste in saving this poor, scared little princess of yours. If you and your party decide that you need anything else, that might come in handy in a heist. Mine is an excellent shop to get any sort of supplies that you might need. I'm quite good when it comes to things like stealth. And disguises, too. You might want to get some better disguises, especially if you're going to be, trying to gather some information first. Just say. Yeah. Honestly, you should bring your whole party here, all right? And I can outfit you all to make sure you actually look like you belong here in Menzoberranzan. I really hope this spell didn't set you back too much. Well, live and learn, I suppose. Live and learn. Well, I suppose we'll see how this whole princess thing goes, and how your delivery of my item goes. Who knows? We could actually maybe use... We'll see. We'll see how useful you seem to be. Maybe we could use another person like you on our team, but that's a discussion for another day, I guess. Anyway, deliver my item. Don't forget. Good luck with your princess. Now get out of here.